Happy Monday, guys.
So excited that we're here with you.
Oh, the switcheroo.
I did the switcheroo. I'm sorry.
No, that's cool.
There are a couple of things on my end that make it just easier when I'm on one side of the screen and not the other. But hello. If this is your first time here on Say That channel, welcome. We're super excited to have you. Monday is a great day to really focus on mindset and think about things to really help us get through the week. And so that is basically the story behind our Monday rundowns, where we talk about anything and everything to help us become just better as humans. And so if this is the first time that you're here with us, basically what we've been doing is we've been hearing from other content creators, other thought leaders in the industry, in the different fields, and we learn from them about like different techniques, different things for us to know about, so that way we can educate ourselves and you, our audience, about what we can do to make ourselves better as people.
That's a great way of looking at it. And guys, today's question or topic is definitely going to be a really, I think, helpful one for everyone. So let's jump right into it and get after it. Today's topic is,
can you heal
from trauma? Somebody pulled out the tissue already, like, can I?
I think a lot of people want to. Some people don't even realize that they're existing in a state where they're reacting to the trauma that they've had, right? Like, I think so. Some people don't even know, is what I'm saying. So you're just kind of like out there doing things. Let's take self-sabotage. You're out there self-sabotaging your career, your business, your romantic relationships, etc., and you don't even recognize that the reason, and this isn't for everybody, but oftentimes the reason people are participating in self-sabotaging behavior has to do with some sort of traumatic event that happened in their past, typically in your childhood, that leads you to have a certain type of belief that then leads you to take particular actions that are self-sabotage. So I just want to put that out there, that some people don't even know. So I think if you even know that you have trauma, you're already on a step forward.
Better place, yeah.
Yeah, exactly, because you have awareness. So I just want to shout you out right now. Great job, you have awareness. And then I think lots of people are hoping you can. And I certainly believe that if you put in the work, whether it's shadow work, which I've recently been learning a little bit more about, because it has a lot to do with addressing shame-based thinking, which I am becoming an expert in. I think that if you do the work, if you take the time to do it, then I believe that you can. And I also want to say that it's not an overnight process. I think all of us are looking for something like, oh, I just listened to this hour masterclass or YouTube video or whatever, and that's it. I think it also takes time, and I don't want people beating themselves up if they feel like they're in it and it's just like taking a while.
You know, it's funny. When I saw the question, your book came to mind. There was your book, and then I thought about Landmark, something that you and I have both done. Shout out to anybody who's ever gone through the Landmark program. And I I'll say that we got to make sure we put a link for that one in today's description. So definitely remind me, Jay, to make sure that happens. So, or I'll remind you to make sure that happens. But I was, your book came to mind because a lot of, even in reading it, when you started to, I don't know if the right word is deconstruct, or maybe aware, like you said, become aware of what was going on, and why you were doing things, or maybe cycles you found yourself in were happening. I think a lot of it had to do with trauma you dealt with, or how you perceived things, as you were growing up in your life. And so to answer the question, I do think you can heal. I just wonder if we get caught up wondering if our way of healing, or the way our healed looks, different than someone else's. I don't know if I even said that the right way, but hopefully you guys understood. It's like if you compare what someone else looks like when they say they're healed, and you may not feel like you're there yet, or it doesn't look the same, then you may not think you're healing or healed. You've not healed through something. And then you kind of got into it about how we judge ourselves. I do think you can be healed of trauma. And the question is, what does that look like? I know many people have gone through addiction and still go through, may still be a part of a program And so healed may look like, oh, I don't need the program anymore. But maybe that's not the right way of looking at it. Maybe healed is, oh, I do need this because I used to use this other thing as a crutch. And now this can be the crutch that keeps me from falling back into that, that habit or addiction that I was using before. So I would just say, simple answer, yes. And maybe we need to reevaluate what we call or how we look at what healed looks like.
Love that.
Yeah. But it's not just us on this one today, guys. So let's dive into today's content and hear what is it Big Think today or is it?
It is Big Think. Yes.
Oh, awesome. So let's hear what the people from Big Think have to say on this topic.
Here we go.
Based in the mainstream culture, where if you feel bad, you take something to make that feeling go away. Around that time that I first started to work for the VA, I looked at the treatments that we have. I did the first study on Prozac for PTSD, the first study for Zoloft for PTSD, and a number of other conventional drugs. What we found is that it didn't work very well. Our conventional way of thinking about it is not working. I thought, okay, if it doesn't work, let's see what else can work. My name is Bessel van der Kolk. I am a physician, I'm a psychiatrist. I have been studying trauma for about 50 years now. The nature of trauma is that something happens to you, your survival brain makes the first interpretation and says, is this dangerous or is this safe? So it's very important to really be aware that these reactions emanate from your body. And so the big challenge of treating trauma is how do we help people to live in bodies that feel fundamentally safe? What was very clear is that very good psychotherapy was actually quite helpful. Not to fix people, but helping people to acknowledge like, oh my God, that was terrible what happened to me. And I need to take care of the wounds that I'm carrying inside of myself. This issue of self-compassion and really knowing that your reactions are understandable is a terribly important part of beginning to recover from trauma. Can I talk about something else before we talk about MDMA? Because MDMA is so sexy.
Okay. Yes, it is.
For me, the opening to a new world came when some people in my clinic started to do something very strange called EMDR, eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. You ask people to call up the memory of what you saw back then, what you felt back then. And then what you do is that you ask people to follow your fingers as you move your fingers from side to side. And my first reaction is like, man, stop this crazy nonsense. This is a crazy method. And then I got to see some of the results. I go like, wow, this is interesting. Wiggling your fingers in front of people's eyes as they think about the trauma made the trauma go away.
What?
This crazy eye movement desensitization actually changed the circuitry of the brain to interpret your current reality from a different angle.
Wow.
This had amazing effects on people being able to let go of what happened and say, yes, that's what happened to me, and it happened a long time ago. It's not happening right now.
Wow.
That was the first time that I saw a non-conventional technique have a very profound effect. And then we studied yoga. Maybe if you do yoga.
Wait, hold on. Can we pause for a second?
Yeah, go for it. Yeah. Let me switch this over.
I'm sure he's gonna get to the MDMA or whatever and the hallucinogens. I'm probably not saying it.
Hallucinogenics. Yeah, I got you.
Hallucinogenics. Thank you. But I just want to say, can we pause for a moment because he just talks about something that, I've never heard of. I feel like more people need to be talking about this because it doesn't require you going to the Amazon rainforest until this sounds like
ayahuasca.
Yeah, this sounds like you can do something you can do here as long as you find someone who's trained in it. And it seems like you don't need to put something into your body is the other thing that I'm thinking, right? Like, I don't know. I'm blown away by this technique.
You remember in Letting Go though, how, or maybe not, maybe Letting Go is not the one, but what is the Power of Now? Have you read that yet?
Actually, no.
Okay. So in that, well, not to dumb the book down, but a big part of it is just that they stress is the idea that something did happen to you, what he just said about acknowledging that, but recognizing, and for many people, the trauma there that is affecting them isn't present. It isn't something that's currently happening, but you're acting as if it is. So you're acting as if that person who hurt you is currently hurting you. And they try to encourage you to be this whole idea of living in the moment, being aware. And what he just said, though, is a practical exercise to help you do that. And that's the thing that's new. The book doesn't give you that, or maybe it doesn't. I'm not understanding, because it's one of those things you may have to read it a couple of times. But what he just said with the hand moving in front of the eyes seems like a practical application of what the book is encouraging you to do, to recognize that your now isn't hurting you. Your now moment, you are okay. But it's when you sit and dwell on that past event that you allow yourself to experience the same emotions in some instances, because your brain is just going to go, oh, I remember why this hurts. Run the tape. And you just essentially relive it emotionally, even though you may not have bruises and all that. That was good.
I also want to say that, like, the idea that, like, to even put yourself in a place where you're reliving the trauma is an important step in order to have the paradigm shift with, like, the finger thing. Because I don't even think, I'm just going to be honest and say, like, just recently I had a conversation with somebody, and I was listening to them react to me describing what happened in my past. And they were like, Janelle, that's, like, really traumatic. And I don't mean something that happened in my childhood. I mean something that happened in my adult life. And as I'm listening to this, I'm like, holy crap, I'm having a very, like, come to Jesus moment where I'm like, have I really gotten to a place where I've acknowledged that I've been through something really bad? Because without even acknowledging it, how could I get to the other place of, like, being like, and that is no longer I mean, I could have some blind spots because I'm not even recognizing that I went through something that was pretty traumatizing. And so could I still be acting from that place because I'm not even aware? Anyway, so I just think that this technique seems quite brilliant for the point you mentioned, for, like, the now moment, like, this is not happening to me now, but also for the moment right before that, which is even just being okay with identifying that something traumatic did happen.
Yeah.
So anyway,
that's actually, well, no, that's a really good point, because I think often we are encouraged to kind of dismiss it as if to try and diminish it, but by not recognizing, well, it did happen though. And when you try to make that point and someone's like, yeah, but that doesn't matter now, that's not what they're saying to do. They're saying, no, acknowledge it, go back there, and then let's do something that's not me trying to verbally convince you of something. I'm just going to do an action that's going to allow your mind to think, oh, well, why is this finger moving through my head? And then and I don't understand the science behind it, so let me not even sit here trying to explain something. But what you just said was a really, really, really important point, which is there's nothing wrong with acknowledging that something bad did happen to you or could be happening to you. Sure. And then what? You know what I mean? And then what? And this is awesome. Okay.
Back to yoga. As Winston was saying, this is something that I practice every day.
This is Janelle's wheelhouse. So yes. All right, let's go.
Yoga, you can open up your relationship to your body. You learn how to breathe calmly. You learn to pay attention to yourself. You get to see how different movements and different postures affect you. And so you form a deep relationship to your internal sensory system. Yoga at the end was a more effective treatment for PTSD than any of the drugs we had studied.
Wow.
But I've yet to see a psychopharmacology clinic being transformed to a yoga studio. The next thing that we studied was theater and movement. And it turns out that playing different roles in your body helps you to feel that your body can feel differently depending on how you organize your relationship to yourself.
Hmm.
When my voice gets too gravelly, let me know and I'll drink some water.
I like
a little gravelly, so I don't.
Okay.
That's hilarious. This guy's taking the
This is
water away.
great. I'll take water too.
It's good.
He seems like he'd be a fun psychotherapist
Oh, wait.
to be there.
So I live in the Berkshires, and we have a great program here called Shakespeare in the Courts, where if you're a juvenile delinquent in this county, you have a 50% chance that the judge will condemn you to become a Shakespearean actor.
Huh.
That's civilization. Huh?
Wow.
The Shakespeare program is enormously helpful because it helps people to feel their bodies and to feel what it feels like to be a king, and it feels like to be a warrior. And you get to really have a deep experience of yourself in different possibilities.
Wow.
The next piece that I studied is that you can actually put electrodes on your skull so that when you make brainwaves that help you to be calm and focused, you get a little reward. We did very well with neurofeedback, so we can shape your brain to actually have a different configuration to be open to new experiences. And then about 15 years ago, two guys came to talk to me and they said, Bessel, you know a lot about trauma. What do you think about this idea? We are thinking about psychedelics. What do you think about psychedelics for trauma? And I go like, wow. You're speaking from my heart. Because of course, I'm a child of the 60s. And we dabbled in LSD and psychedelic substances. Wouldn't it be great if we could do psychedelic substances to see if these substances can open up people's minds, to see that the reality that they live in is just a small part of the reality that there is. But I said, don't do it.
Nah.
It will destroy your career. These drugs are illegal. And they said, thank you very much for your opinion. We'll try it anyway. They got permission to do a study of MDMA, also known as ecstasy or Molly, for trauma. And it worked out pretty well. And they were able to collect a large amount of money to do a very large and extremely expensive study. Lots of different sites around the US, one in Israel, one in Canada. So let me tell you how the study is set up. After all the preparation, you have a whole day of taking ecstasy while you lie on the bed, 2 therapists in your room for 8 hours. What we see in the people who get the drug is amazing. People are able to go to places they have never felt safe to go to. This is not a picnic. They see the horrible things that happen to them. But MDMA allows people to see themselves with compassion.
Wow.
All these measures we have about self-perception and self-awareness just shoot up. And rather than blaming themselves, they're able to say, yes, this is what happened to me, but it's over. Part of what has kept me so busy all these years is how can we find a treatment that allows that basic sense of defectiveness and self-loathing to be controlled. And now it looks like we have found something that causes a very substantial drop in PTSD. Probably more than just about anything else we have studied. But what's important here is that one size doesn't fit all. Different people need very different things. What worked for my last patient very well may not work for you. Everything is an experiment in life. And healing from trauma is an experiment.
Get smarter, faster with videos from the world's biggest thinkers.
Man, these guys are really on the pulse right now.
I mean, that was so good. I mean, please drop comments, fire emojis, like whatever. I don't know.
Seriously.
Like,
That's probably one of the best ones. I'm sorry. That was, yeah.
So,
Really,
I
really
mean,
good.
like now it's up to us to then like figure out how we can get access to the different things. I also love that he said like it's not one,
It's not
like it
one
doesn't
size fit
fit
all.
one person.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
each of us has to try our own way on our own path, and
See, but that's the thing that I was trying to say earlier. It's weird because I obviously want to say that some of the things that he's talking about, you'll have to find other people who are doing it to say, oh, let me experiment myself into these things. But I then think we get so caught up in boxes. Like, imagine I'm sure there's a person out there that for them, drugs is like off limits. Like, I can't do it. But they're dealing with trauma where one ecstasy trip could probably completely like change their life. But they've been given this stigma about something that we don't even really fully understand yet. Because to his point, there aren't very many studies. And Janelle, you obviously could speak to this way more better than I can. In your community with science, and you're not always given funding to do certain things, and
right.
certain things are taboo. And so it's like, we can't do this. Like, I remember watching the Netflix special where the women were just talking about the female body and how little it was. I can't remember the woman's name, but how she was the only woman amongst a bunch of men given to do a study about women. She said that was the oddest thing, and she didn't get enough funding to continue her experiments. And it was such a very, very weird thing because there's so many answers out there and we're not having the opportunity to address a lot of these things because of other things that are already set up in place. And like marijuana now, you know what I mean? It's something that people are being allowed to use when for years they've known that it could help a lot of people in many areas, but people were being put in prison for this. So it's just, oh man, this is a really cool video.
Yeah, this is
a really, really good video. So I think the answer is yes, you can heal trauma, and there are ways out there. You just got to go find your, Janelle's been doing yoga for years. I don't know if you even knew it had all the benefits that he just mentioned. Maybe you did.
No, I mean, I tell people all the time, it got me through COVID.
Oh, there you go.
I will preach it from the mountains, the rooftops. Like to that end, I don't think I knew. Now I'm like, oh, that totally makes sense now why it got me through COVID. Like I did there was a 108-day challenge. Shout out to Travis Elliott. There was a 108-day challenge that he just happened to put on YouTube. Otherwise, he would have to like download his app. But I was like, no, I'll do it with him. And that got me through, like literally got me through COVID. Like, and I mean the period of COVID where we didn't know what was happening. Like there was just like mass confusion.
Anxiety and yeah.
Yeah, and like we just didn't. I mean, I was spraying my groceries with alcohol. Like that point in time.
I'm sorry. I'm trying to laugh. I forgot we used to live in a society.
This is how it was, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, so I say all that to say, yoga got me through it, and I didn't understand why. But now I know. And he's right. There was something about breathing and like just my ability to breathe and control my breath and you're just like very present to your body. And I think that was so important during a time when I was living in Manhattan. I lived right behind Harlem Hospital. I saw the big trucks that they were dumping the dead bodies in. Like it was talk about trauma. Like it was a traumatic experience that I was like living through. Yoga got me through it.
Well, shout outs to that.
Yeah.
For me, I can attest you. I've known for years just the benefits of fitness or health, and I guess, but working out is kind of my way of doing that too. And I've done yoga from time to time, but honestly, now watching that, I'm actually going to work on integrating that because as much as it's helpful to strength train, it definitely doesn't give you the sense of body awareness necessarily because you are adding things to it. You're adding dumbbells or whatever, you're adding weights to it. So it's not me manipulating my own body through certain movements the way he discussed in this. So I'm definitely going to take a look into just adding that into my routine because actually I have done yoga before and had, but I'm here thinking like you, like, oh, it's just something to kind of zone out for a little bit while I do some fitness. I wasn't looking at it from the other aspects that he just mentioned that it clearly has benefits to give you. So this is a really quick.
Really I want to shout out the acting thing.
Yeah.
Like I know people are probably going to go to the MDMA real quick and the thing, that we talked about with the finger movement, right? Fine. But really quickly, I do want to pay attention to what you said about the acting. I think that's an amazing thing that they do in the Berkshires where they send these youth like 50% of them get sent to this. Shout out to Jury Bradford. If you ever watch this, he's got the Pursuing Purpose program, where it's essentially trying to do the same thing, give access to youth who potentially could be on the road to juvenile detention centers, but instead of doing that, giving them access to mentorship and education on how they can do things like do entertainment, right? Like, what if you do want to become an actor? Like, what are the tools and things that you need to do that? What if you want to go into fashion? How can you learn about that? What if you want to go into music production, right? Like, whatever that is, essentially, so that way you can learn how to make money in other ways. But like, now I'm like, man, the acting actually is probably, we need to look at that a little bit closer, because that has much more therapeutic effects than I think any of us would have realized. So this is amazing.
Yeah. There was an episode that Russell Brand had done where he talked about just the different programs for addiction, and how, I can't remember where he lived. It's somewhere in Europe. Sorry about that, guys. You're like, wait, where? Like, how big of a place are you talking about? But anyway, they talked about how the drug rehab programs are there compared to here, where incarceration seems to be the course of action. That if you don't have the wealth to kind of maybe go to a treatment clinic, just incarceration seems to be the way our country kind of handles those things. But there they have a very, is it empathetic or empathetic way of looking at it,
and
holistic way of looking at it, where they have shelters that are there to help people kind of go through that process of getting off the drugs, right? And he showed, I'm talking about not just, they show the numbers, guys, where statistically that approach is significantly, and I will see if I can go find this, because it was years ago that I'd watched this, but significant difference between that approach and the people's recovery post getting off the drug, as opposed to here, where some people go and they throw them in the prison, and they think, oh, well, if they don't have access to the drug, that'll fix them. But it doesn't cure what led them to that in the first place. And now you've tacked on this, now this person's a criminal. And so there are other things that you've now put on this person's life. They can't come out and get jobs without being, you know what I mean?
Talk about
and
shame.
So, exactly. That's literally what I was saying. It's like the way we look at things, guys. And so much of that I know is based on prisons are, to me, just basically cheap work labor. But there's so many things that I know that we could, if we took a different approach to things, there's obviously answers. Yeah, there are answers to things. And you may not always live in a place that gives you the options to get the help you need. I'll put it out that way. But thank God for YouTube. I'm just saying, because I had never heard of this before this video. And even Janelle now mentioned Dewey, who we knew, and you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Imagine if Dewey's program became the standard for America, in a sense.
Right.
And more Deweys out there in the world were like, oh, I would love to. Jury, excuse me. So I just thought that was really cool. So thank you for that.
Yeah, amazing.
Really, really good.
Make sure you put all of the comments in the comment section. We want to hear them all if you found this just as valuable as we did. But until next time, as always, remember, you deserve the good life. Say that.
We'll see you guys on Wednesday.